Okay, so now we'll go into sharing. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu ilayh. Today is our seventh session after we started Quranic psychology and psychoethics, Sufi Enneagram study group more formally. So in our last session, we discussed Futuwwa because this struggle we are doing, which is called Jihad al-Akbar, this is basically um, self-development, self-cleanings, spiritual achievement. The goal is, of course, to win our um, lower self and upgrade our capacity towards our spiritual stages and achieve the final goal if Allah grant us, which is of course Wilayah. But so there's a three stage. One is called Futuwwa, basically to start, which is the spiritual chivalry. So as a part of it, first stage is Muruwa, which is the moral goodness we received. And then it continue Futuwwa, which is our struggle, until we receive the stage of Wilayah. So that is the our target. But of course, if you aim for the star, you might fall on the moon. That is our goal. So this is what our main study. So Futuwwa is what we have explained. That was in our chapter 2 of this book, Moral Healer's Handbook, The Psychology of Spiritual Chivalry, which is Futuwwa. In the last session, we touched on the goal and the chapter 2, the heart, how we work on the heart. Now, to continue our struggle, we will be discussing spiritual models. So that is our today's discussion, spiritual models. But let's me briefly go back and say a few minutes about spiritual chivalry. So I started last session with a quotation from Abdul Razak Kasani, which has been quoted by Lale Bakhtiar in her book, this book we are studying, this volume 2, Moral Healer's Handbook. So spiritual chivalry consists in the manifestation of the light of the original nature, which is the Fitratullah. And it's gaining mastery over the negative effects within the physical form. So the physical form is our body and our lower self, Nafs al-Ammara, which of course bring all the negative effects upon us. All positive traits become manifest within the self and all negative qualities disappear. When our struggle continue, that is the efforts we will do, and that is the manifestation of light, natural, original nature, light of the original nature, Fitratullah, we will be working to manifest in us. So say that human being perseveres in these affairs until the force of the animal self, which are passions, desires, is broken, its strength and negative traits are overcome. Firmness becomes the person's second nature. Thus, all kinds of temperance, courage become firmly rooted in him. So two qualities, temperance, self-esteem, charity, whatever that particular temperance behavior and effect we will be doing, the courage. And of course, we have to use reason and wisdom and all the varieties of wisdom. When we use all these three, then justice become manifest. wisdom become manifest, and in our nature we actualize the goal, which is bring justice at the center. The follower of the spiritual chivalry is called spiritual warriors, fatah. It is a person who resists self-will, the passions, by engaging in the greater struggle, jihadul akbar. So three things spiritual warrior have: to have morally healed by using self-help tool of enneagram. That's what we will be using. We will be checking our state, and we will follow this methodology called Sufi enneagram. We explained briefly, gone through it in the past lectures. So main thing is we use that tool to have centered the self in wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, to transfer light of fitratullah from potentiality to actuality, to achieve grace and knowledge. So grace and knowledge is the main rizq, which is the rizq of akhirah we are looking for. Fi dunya hasnatan wa fil akhirati hasnatan. Both will come in terms of grace and knowledge. So that is what we will be touching. So now to go into our today's lecture, we will touch Futuwwa as a divine attribute. And then we will discuss spiritual models, and then of course some of the metaphors to understand these spiritual models. So Futuwwa and divine attribute, spiritual models, and metaphor of two seas from Quran, metaphor of Moses, water, basket, body, how it all represents. So our main idol today is Moses, but of course Futuwwa applies to many of our our models. Though we are starting with Moses, you will find that this story is in the Quran. Because of that we are using it, but our main model is Uswatun Hasana, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and on his footstep Hazrat Ibn al-Arabi is our model. So that is the model we will be following. Of course, as a part of prophetic model, we have Khalid Saifullah, and we have, of course, Hazrat Ali. So they are all the Futuwwa model for us, and all their references will come to us. Today's discussion will touch mainly Moses and Khidir, and Ibn Arabi and Khidir. These are the two parts we will be touching. I shared two articles, and I see many thanks to Brother Nadir Khan to sharing this book. I actually didn't know that that book exists, but that book is a bit expanded version of what we will be discussing today from this book, Moral Healer's Handbook. So whatever we discussed here, I briefly looked into that book, this contents. Yes, it has a bit more details, but that is relevant to our today's lecture. So maybe we can have another session on it if we find gap between what we will be touching today and whatever in that book. So I haven't read this whole book, but I browsed it, and it's a good book to actually have in one place. How spiritual model we can use to achieve our target, which is of course to become the winning warrior, because any struggle need a winner. So we want to be the winner. So to become that winner, to become the Fatah who won Zulfikar, so we needed, we will be following them. So we will be touching on that. And now let's move into this Futuwwa, a divine attribute. Chivalry, Futuwwa, is a divine attribute by way of meaning, but there is no word derived from it by which God is named. Both the law and rational proofs show that he possesses independence from cosmos absolutely. So Allah is independent of cosmos. One who has such independence and then brings the cosmos into existence does not bring it into existence because of his poverty toward it. He only brings the cosmos into existence for the sake of the cosmos as an act of charity, ithar, toward it in spite of the fact that he alone possesses being. This is chivalry itself. So this is what divine attribute teaches us. So we have to do it as an act of charity, which is, of course, we need it to, that's the justice to our soul. And God does it, of course, we know in that hadith, this hadith, Kanzun Mahfiyun, that hidden treasure, he revealed himself because he loved to be known. So out of love, he did this. So this is same out of our love to our divine. We are doing this to our own soul because God created us for his ubudiyah. So to become the true abed, we are in this struggle. Hence, whoever strives hard does so only for his own good. This is the Quranic verse. وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ فَإِنَّمَا يُجَاهِدُ لِنَفْسِهِ. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that whoever strives hard does so only for his own good. And then, of course, Allah is confirming, telling us that Inna Allah la ganiyun anil alamin. He is independent of cosmos, his creation. So that is, Ibn Arabi actually explained this Gina, this independence, more details in that in Futuhat, which has been quoted by Shittik in his book Sufi Path of Knowledge, which I shared in our Fusus group, because there was a question in that line. So I thought I was reading about Futuwwa. This quote I gave here is from SPK. This particular quotation I have given here, and that quotation is adopted by Laleh Bakhtiar in this book. If you look at page 32 or 29, you'll find that this was quoted by Laleh Bakhtiar. So here I am quoting from this SPK, this Sufi Path of Knowledge. Freedom is a station of the essence, not of the divinity. So this is the part we need to understand. That uluhiyya, the divinity, is the reason why all this creation happened. So the divinity is the uluhiyya. That's why la ilaha illallah, ilah. So it can never be fully delivered over to the servant. So we never can become ilah. A servant can never become ilah, can never become Lord. Since he is God's servant through a servanthood that does not accept emancipation, he is independent of the worlds, and this belongs to no existent essence save the essence of the real. No engendered thing is tied to the essence. No eye perceives it, no limit encompasses it, and no demonstration, no burhan, no proof gives knowledge of it. So that's what we needed to understand. According to the Sheikh al-Akbar, God, in respect of being the divinity, must create the cosmos, even though in respect of the essence, he is independent of the cosmos. So this understanding, it needed to be clear if we want to adopt this divine attribute of chivalry, Futuwwa. There are three reports of divine chivalry, the hadith. One is Quranic, which is, and the other two is prophetic. I am just touching mostly on Quranic, this one, and then discussion briefly here. And we all know that I created jinn, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Right? So we know that I created jinn and mankind only for worship me. So that is what our job as a Futuwwa, as a Fatah, as a warrior. The form of chivalry here is that he created them to give them the blessing, ni'amat of existence, to bring them out from the evil of non-existence, to make it possible for them to assume the traits takhalluk bi akhlaqillah, so that we can adopt God's attribute in us of the divine names, to make them successors, so that we can become Khalifa. So when the more name we can create in us, the more closer we can become towards Abed, towards Khalifa. So that's why Ibn Arabi taught us, رَبِّ هَبْ لِي إِسْتِدَادًا كَامِلًا لِقُبُولِ فَيْدِكَ الْأَقْدَاسِ لِأَخْلَافِ فِي بِلَادِكَ. So that's what, that, oh Allah, make us, grant us, habli, istidadan kamalan, the perfect readiness, so that we can receive your faid kalagdas, which is constantly pouring upon us, and which will make us ready to become Khalifa. So that Khalifa is in our bilad. What is that bilad? The bilad is our body. So our body, we needed to take full control of. At the moment, nafsa ammara misguide us. We can't take full control of it. So that's one of that khilafat first had to be established on our own kingdom. Then maybe outside. All of this is charity toward them, given that he alone possesses everything in which he made them successors. So this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a charity upon us. Ni'mal Mawla or Ni'mal Wakil. So he is the Ni'mal Mawla. And that's what he is giving us an arm. What is that inam of? The ni'amat of existence, wujud. So we have been given wujud here. And now I will be quoting Khaja Abdullah Ansari. This quotation again taken from this book. This is Lale Bakhtiar quoted. He said that if we are doing Futuwwa or becoming a spiritual warrior, then he's saying the spiritual rebellion towards God is to strive in servanthood with all one's strength. So we have to, just like Khalid Saifullah fought with all his strength, and he fought all his life but died in his deathbed, and he was repenting that he was not given Shahada. So, and of course, Hazrat Ali also fought so hard, and he has been given Zulfikar, right? That particular title. So there is a three signs Abdullah Ansari is saying. Never tired of seeking knowledge. A spiritual warrior never tired of seeking knowledge. Never cease remembering God and finding companions among good people. So this is three things according to Abdullah Ansari. So that's the first thing we have to look for as a spiritual warrior. If we want to become one, we need to adopt this attribute. Always we needed to remember Allah, zikr, constant zikr, day in, day out. Alladhina yaskuruna qiyama wa qu'udan. That verse, inna fi khalqi samawati wal ard, wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahar, la ayatin li ulil albab, alladhina yadhkuruna Allah qiyama wa qu'udan. But they actually do zikir, standing and sitting and also in sleeping. So that's what one of the attributes you have to do, and then find the friend who want to be spiritual warrior. So thanks for joining. They're my friends who are in this journey. For the spiritual warrior, the response is to see self as the servant, abd, of the Lord, Rab. So we are Abdul Rab. That's what we have to first become. And also not ordinary abd, Abdun Mahadun, the pure servant. And I will explain what pure servant later. And Ibn Arabi says, until you are pure servant, Abdun Mahadun, of course, mercy will not come. So that's what we have to strive hard to become Abdun Mahadun. As God is the absolute, the only human response is that of complete submission. Complete submission. Humbleness and humility. So that is one of the important qualities that Ibn Arabi quoted Bayezid, said the two things is required to get closer to Allah. One is dependence, neediness on Allah. The other is this humbleness and humility. Those two things we have to get closer to Allah. So that's what here also it has been referred. Through worship, ibadah, the servant serves God as a servant. As Quran says, Lord of the heavens and the earth and of all that is between them. So worship Him and be constant and patient in His worship. So this is the thing. The Prophet said, do worship even a small bit. And if you do it regularly, that's what you have to do. Do you know of anyone who is worthy of the same name as he? So this is one of the questions he asks. So we have to ponder on that. So of course, we'll discuss that bit later. A model for the spiritual warrior Fatah is anyone who manifests the moral reasonableness of religiously cultured monotheist. Hilm, we discussed this terminology, Hilm, what it means. It means actually religiously cultured monotheist. And we discussed what it means, where it originated, and what halama means. Yeah, I'd suggest you read that particular slide in our last lecture. Essentially, it refers to anyone who has morally healed, and you can become Halim if you were able to achieve this particular quality. So we are going to discuss Moses and Khidir story, to discuss the spiritual models. So we all know about that story. I am not going to go in depth of this story. But here we will discuss spiritual hermeneutics, basically interpretation, what those encounter means. And as you already maybe and also in that book, Brother Nadir Khan posted, which says that it doesn't say where exactly Moses met Khidir in the earth, or was it in dream, or is it in a real? Sayyid Qutb was explaining in terms of his intellect. So everybody, even I was also studying that as of even last month, before reading this book. I never gone in depth, but when I read Kashani's tafsir on it, Then I had some idea, but I never knew that it is a methodology Ibn Arabi adopted for his own self and he manifested in him. So that is the beautiful part of it, to study this spiritual hermeneutics, the interpretation. Moses represents heart, this 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 qalb of the spiritual warrior. That is one of the thing, and Moses here as a model for every heart, every human being. And Fatah, who was his attendant, who was with him, that is our nafs, that is our self, which is of course those three categories of nafs we know, and the nafs al-ammara, nafs al-lawama, nafs al-mutmainna, but of course the nafs al-mulhama is the consciousness, which is of course the overall description of the heart. And the journey is the spiritual quest, junction of the two seas, two world of nafs and world of body. Fish, spiritual nourishment, two seas, meat. I'll go into these metaphors later, more details. So I sent 2 articles. So most of this is described there in more details as well. So fish here is spiritual nourishment, and two seas meet, physical and psychic forces meet in combined form. And heart and nafs forgot to guard the nourishment, fish for the heart. So that's when two of them going into take rest into a rock near the ocean. And Moses was of course sleeping, and his attendant saw that this dead fish suddenly became alive, and then it jumped into the sea, but he didn't wake his master. Wake up, and Moses was not wakened. As a result, they started the journey again. So that's what forgetfulness will be, always be caught up. That's what we will learn from that story. So yeah, we will discuss about that. We have to guard our fish, which is the spiritual nourishment, how we get that nourishment, and we'll know more about it as we go along. Mysteriously, fish became alive, burrowed a path for itself, and dove into the sea of the body. So here, Kashan is saying that when fish become alive, it actually create a pathway for us. The way the path was created when Moses hit the water with his stick, and there was a path created, but that path will be only trod by believer. A path created by spiritual nourishment will only allow the believer to tread. The way the Red Sea path was created by Moses and his people, only Pharaoh's people couldn't go through it. Pharaoh couldn't go through it, but only the believers could go through it. So we need to have a pathway to cross. So now, how can we create that pathway? Basically by guarding the nourishment, spiritual nourishment, the fish. We have to guard it for the heart. Then we will be blessed, and mysteriously the fish will become alive and will create us a path. That path is what we can trod as a believer. So that is one of the thing we have to remember. Heart was promised to meet someone, something more knowledgeable than itself, and sacred intellect is that person Khidir. Khidir is this Aql al-Qudsi. So in Quran we have been promised that we will be able to meet him. That is in us, in our depth. So if we are able to create the path towards him, then we'll be able to meet him. Khidir, the sacred intellect. State of perfection must be done through guidance from the sacred intellect. So what's, of course, first we have to meet him and he will give us guidance. So before we meet him, we need. Okay, sorry, I got a little bit of microphone issue. So do you hear? Do you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay, that's good then. Sorry about this. Suddenly, yeah, I lost the connection. So anyway, so we are just discussing this. The hermeneutics continued. Forgetfulness due to shaitan and animal self-destruction. So that is one of the thing will happen to us. So we have to do, remember, we need to do zikr. That's one of the requirement to have. Zikr is the spiritual food. Salat is the spiritual food. So many other things we have to always nourish so that Shaitan cannot make us through our animal self create the distraction for us. So returning to the state of nature originated by God. So we already have a fitratullah in us. Yeah, fitratullah allati fatara nasa alayha. So if Allah has already given the fitratullah in us, what we needed to do is we needed to go back to that fitra. We needed to become, as we mentioned, second nature in us. So that's when we'll be able to meet this sacred intellect, retracting their steps, reviewing step by step, moving toward the perfection, wisdom towards the real. So this is what Moses did. He forgot, but he came back. He retraced the path he walked and came back to the place where that fish disappeared. So he's saying that we may have to do it many times. For us, it varies from person to person. So we may have to do this kind of reviewing step by step, moving towards perfection and wisdom. So we may have to do it many times, many passes until we meet the sacred intellect, the Khidir. So found one of our servants unto whom we had given mercy from us, taught him knowledge from ilm ladunni. This is the attribute of Khidir. So and then he's saying there is something inside the human being which recognizes God, that is his own knowledge from the sacred, divine knowledge and absolute truth, which came to him without the need of any human intermediary to teach, and which is not acquired through creation but only from what he himself expresses. So this is the main gist of this sacred self, this sacred intellect, this Khidir. That's why the name is not mentioned. It says in there, one of our servants. That's what has been identified him as. So that's why the Sufis interpret it as a sacred intellect, which is present in all of us. You will be able to bear with me patiently. You are not detached from the body and senses. They veil you so that you will not be able to bear with me patiently. So when we meet that sacred intellect, we needed to have a state of ability to detach from body and senses. So that is the meditative state. That is the state of trance. Because until we are able to have that capability to detach our body and senses, and we can increase our faculty of imagination, the veil will not be lifted. That's what here the guidance is. The Moses said, I accepted you for my own moral healing. So we have to have that acceptance that whatever guidance we get, we needed to have patience. We needed to have. That's why Ya Sabur is in the 99 name. The last name is Ya Sabur. So Sabr is the key, and that's what Moses have been taught. But of course, to convince Khidir, he had to say, first condition is you need to accept it. Accept that intellect. You have to full trust. Wansurni ya ni'mal maula wa ni'mal wakil alal adai. This is the prayer in Hizbul Biqaya. Ibn Arabi says that we should pray this. Wansurni ya ni'mal maula wa ni'mal wakil alal adai. My enemies. So those enemies are the negative traits of the heart. And then he said that Nasra Lazi Kila Lahu Atattakhizuna Khuzuwan Qala Auzu Billah. So that kind of help, when he was asked, then he said, he was asked that, are you kidding with me? Atattakhizuna Khuzuwan. Then the seeker say, Qala Auzu Billah, I seek refuge to Allah. I never joking with you on this sort of matters. This is divine ubudiyah. So you, my hand, you, my mind, you, my body, you all surrender. You, my animal self, nafsul ammara, nafsul lawwama, all of you need to obey me. If they say, are you joking? Are you kidding? You just have to say, Qala auzu billah. That's what that I seek refuge to Allah. When this nafs try to argue with you, and I think yeah, Donna might be aware that you know the Ruhul Quddus book we read in Arabic as well. So in that book, yeah, Ibn Arabi talks about how he won over his soul. So that is the thing. We needed to persuade the soul, nafs, so that it come with you. It come with you. Sacred intellect, when you pursue the way with the performance of spiritual exercises to attain the best conduct, to struggle against your desires. I'll explain my actions when you are free from both emotional influences of the heart and the senses. And that is the advice from the sacred intellect, that you cannot have the journey with him to get the knowledge you need, ilm ladunni, unless we have best conduct and we are in full struggle condition, for war condition, for no compromise with these desires and passions. And of course, he will explain us his actions. We need to have patience with him when we are doing the journey with him. And then next one is, we will be now riding on a ship, which is our body. That is the vast earth. That is the body. We will be praying with, we will be going the journey with the sacred intellect, Khidir. The sacred intellect took both the self, nafs, and the heart and rode in the body, and they went with the body to the sacred universe in the endless ocean to proceed towards God. The sacred intellect made a hole in the body. So now second intellect to test. So though they made the hole in the body in the ship. So now body needs more spiritual nourishment so that of course it's one of the thing is why the hole is made, because he needed to make the body weak. So what you have to do to make the body weak, it will come in later, that the made the body defective through extra spiritual exercises and lessening of food intake, so that the body could not go on its own, could no longer rebel. So fasting is one of the things we have to do to make the body um yeah body to lose its ability to rebel. No rebellious behavior can be done. So the last, anger, greed, attachment, jealousy, pride, those are the 6 enemies, and we will be working on the 9 negative virtues, which we will discuss later, like negative virtues, hypocrisy, cowardice, and fear, anger, apathy, envy, lust, ignorance, and disbelief. Those sort of things we have to watch. Heart's criticism shows that it is inclining towards the body to fulfill desires of animal self. And sacred intellect rebuked the heart and put forward spiritual challenge and discipline. So this criticism is Moses criticized Khidir, said that why did you make the hole? So that criticism, of course, happened because he was still under the influence of animal self. So that's why we have to watch out. Sacred intellect rebuke the heart and put forward spiritual challenges and discipline. So this is what we have to do. If we have any doubt, then of course we needed to follow this prescription, what sacred intellect gave Moses, which is the heart. Heart said, do not take me to task by allowing the nafs lawama, reproaching self, to speak. When you feel that lawama, blaming self, then you of course do tawbah, do istighfar, those sort of things. That's when you have to do. That is the teaching here. And they met the lad, the self nafs, which commands to evil. So this is the one we have to kill. So the sacred intellect killed the lad so that the anger, avoidance of harm, pain, and desires, attraction to pleasure cannot affect the heart. So this is one of the things sacred intellect will help us. But we cannot question how he will guide us to kill our animal self, which is commanding to evil. Nafs al-ammara bisu'e, this nafs which always prompt us to do bad things, sacred intellect or Khidir will help us to kill it. But his methodology we cannot question. So that is the teaching here. Heart had the compassion for the self and all its aspects. Of course, that's why he actually again questioned the sacred intellect, and you will get another rebuke from the sacred intellect. Heart again apologized and confessed its wrongdoing and failures, because reproaching self, nafs al-lawwama, has many forms and takes on many colors. So we needed to know about these forms and to understand this color. But of course, the reproaching self will actually say, I am to blame, and then of course you know that you have done something wrong. A city will then, our journey will actually go to a city So what that city means, it's a place for physical forces. So various forces which attack the body, those sort of things. It can be nightclub, or it can be something which will provoke your senses. And that's when you will reach the city, and that's when you need spiritual nourishment had come from the upper light, from where sacred knowledge and spiritual meanings come. This knowledge did not come before the body was damaged. An aspect of the self commanding to evil had been killed through the spiritual exercise. Spiritual nourishment cannot be delivered until these forces are calm and quiet. So once we are able to go to the city, we can do this spiritual nourishment, which is of course various ibadah, which we learn through, depending on what vices we are working on, we will know in that book, and then we'll apply two-step, one-step, those, various enneagram methodology I explained in our last session, the diet versus poison versus medication versus surgery, those kind of options, how we apply those to bring control over our physical forces. Yeah, we'll discuss those in the future. But once we are able to do that, then we will see the wall. This is the wall, which is the one we have to ride on the wall. If you stand on the wall, you can see both sides. Wall blocks you one side, but the objective is to ride on the wall. So to do that, what actually the sacred intellect did is, wall cannot be found until the nafs al-ammara is killed through spiritual exercises. This self-commanding to evil could not move by its own will. The wall was in a decrepit condition, exhausted, about to temple down or topple down. So that means the wall is our nafsul mutmainna that was in a bad shape. That nafs is in a decrepit condition, exhausted. So we need to fix that wall. Second intellect raised the wall through good conduct, behavior, attaining positive traits. So these are the things we have to. So do you hear me again?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, we
Okay.
hear
Do you hear me now? Yeah?
you. Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, Aisha, welcome back. Thank you. So anyway, we are just discussing this wall. To get the wall and to fix the wall, we have to do these things: good conduct, behavior, attaining positive traits. So that will give a manifestation of the lights of power of goodness. And in order to build up this self at peace, this nafs al mutmainna, spiritual exercise must be undertaken, not expecting a reward for manifesting praiseworthy conduct. So when you do good deeds, people will try to give you reward. Just happily do not accept that reward. That is the teaching here. Um, so that is when, once you achieve that, of course, you can ride on the wall, and once you ride on the wall, you can see both sides, and then you will be able to achieve your goal. So I didn't go further depth. Maybe we'll read it later, but now I wanted to go into a various metaphor we discussed where it came from. So yeah, I just took some of this information from this Angela Jeffries article I posted. So this meeting of the two seas is of course from the Quranic verse, and in Ibn Arabi mystical framework, this represents the union of opposites, the physical and spiritual, manifest and the hidden, human and divine. The human being is seen as the point of convergence. We discussed this in one of our discussion, because in a chapter of Adam, okay, did I lost you again?
Yeah, but we can hear you now, I think.
Oh, okay, I don't know what's happening,
Yeah.
and it was all good in the past, but for some reason today it's a bit playing up. So I discussed this world of command and creation in one of the sessions in our previous lecture, I think session 2. There we discussed about human being has been Ibn Arabi explained فما جمع الله لآدم بين يديه إلا تشريفا. So جمع الله, and then he said وما هو إلا عين جمعه بين السورتين سورة العالم وسورة الحق. So point of convergence. Human being, every human being has two realms. We combine through our qalb. Qalb is the point which is in the barzakh, and through our qalb we join two realms. The body belongs to the material world, while the soul is connected to the divine. The mind acts as the intermediary navigating between the two. So that's one of the understanding of these two seas. And the salt water and sweet water, this imagery reflects the duality within human existence. Salt water is symbolizes the worldly life, and with its trials, desires, attachment, and sweet water represents the spiritual essence, the pure knowledge and divine wisdom that nourishes the soul, the human being, particularly the perfect human, insan al-kamil, in Ibn Arabi's teachings, is the one who integrates these two waters without allowing one to overpower the other. So these are the items, and the body is the vessel that interacts with the material world, salt water. This is playing. And why? Hmm. Okay. Do you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Sorry about this.
Uh, your
I'm
microphone
almost closer to few more slides. Yeah.
has spiritual chivalry, your microphone, it looks like.
Yes. Yes.
I think I think it's just trying to make sure we are here listening.
Yeah, that's the thing. So anyway, so the bridge that possesses both worldly and spiritual realities, so the mind, which is our imaginal part, and the soul, of course, the divine essence, the spirit itself, connected to the unseen, the sweet water. So, and then the unveiling of divine reality, the tajalli happens, and connecting tajalli to the two seas, barrier between the seas. So this meeting point is basically the human stands at the meeting point where divine manifestation occurs. So, and then the manifest world, the salt water, inner reality is the sweet water. And these are all taken from Quran and Ibn Arabi's teaching. I'm going to give a reference in few minutes. And as you see, this is the verse in Surah Ar-Rahman. We know all this. Maraj al-Bahraini yaltaqiyan. So we know that verse. And bainahuma barzakhun la yabghiyan. So that is the one. And he asked, is it the sea that he joined to himself and concealed from the entities? Or is it the sea that is separated from himself and called creation? Or is it the barzakh between the two seas upon which the merciful is established? Istawa. Ar-Rahmanu al-Arsh istawa. So whole creation is his arsh. So because qalb is the arsh, and that's what he's referring here. So the two seas, the seas of the body and this manifested world, and sea of the unseen. So both join, and of course the manifested world is encompassed by his arsh. Wasiya kursiyuhu samawati wal ard. The samawati wal ard is the cosmos, and that is the body. So, and then here in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Wama yastawil baharani hada azbun furatun saigun sharabuhu wahada milhun. The salt, right? Ajahun wamin kulli takuluna lahman tariyan wa tastakhrijuna khiliyata talbasunaha wa tara الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون. So all those ideas what we are talking about is came from this verse as well. The two great bodies of water on earth are not alike, the one sweet, thirst allaying, pleasant to drink, and the other salty and bitter. And yet from either of them do you eat fresh meat, and from either you take gems which you may wear, and on either thou canst see ships flowing through the waves, so that you might be able to go forth in quest of some of his bounty, and thus have cause to be grateful. So we have to do shukr. Even if we get from both sea, we get the treasure. That's what we have to work towards. So we can get treasure in this sea, gems in this sea, this earthly sea. We can see gems in the unseen sea. So that's what in this verse Allah is asking us. And to do shukr, if we get knowledge and wisdom from the other side, we say shukr. When we get rizq here, good job, or financial benefit or whatever from this sea, we say shukr. Because ganiyun shakirun, fakirun sabirun. The passion, passion, um, um, fakir is the one desired, and rich, the grateful, rich is desired. If you don't do shukr, then of course this rewards which will come from the divine on your journey will not be multiplied, because you know that verse, وَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you do shukr, I increase it. So that's what the main objective. So now this quotation again, this quoted by Jeffrey, Angela Jeffrey. She quoted from this book, Bezels of Wisdom. We all know about this book, this chapter of Moses. As for the wisdom related to his being, Moses being placed in the basket and being cast on the waters, it is that the basket represents his humanity, his body, while the waters represent the learning, he acquired through the medium of his body, such as is obtained through the faculty of speculative thought, of sensation and imagination, all of which accrue to the human soul only through the existence of the elemental body. When the soul attaches to this body and is commanded to act in it and direct it, God allots these faculties to it as a means by which to achieve the direction God wishes for this vessel. So vessel is the basket where Moses was put in when he was baby, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the wahi to his mother, in which resides the tranquility of the Lord. Thus he was cast on the waters, that he might acquire by these faculties all kinds of learning. God told him that even though the directing spirit was the body's ruler, it directed it only through him. God granted to him those powers inherent in humanity and expressed in terms of the basket in Quranic and learning illusion. So all those things I just mentioned is Ibn Arabi said in his Fusus. So it's not Kashani didn't make it up. Our Sheikh told us that that's how we need to understand these verses, especially Moses as heart and our body is where the learning will come and guidance will come. So, and then whose water is fresh and sweet, whose salt and salty and bitter. It is quite obvious that the knowledge that Khidir possessed from his Lord is a bitter knowledge for Moses, one he is unable to swallow. So he is just explaining this knowledge from the unseen world, or the water in the unseen world is bitter. On the other hand, the scores of prescriptive laws Moses brings to his people have a medicinal taste to those who are soul sick, because that is the Sharia, that is this world. So that is a bit sweeter, because there are always syrup has a bit of sweetness. When you are children, you remember, so that we can take the medicine, they give a bit of sweet in the syrup. So, but the Sheikh reiterates in this chapter on the purification that both Sharia knowledge and Laduni knowledge are rainwater, a fluid made fine and filtered to an utmost clarity and refinement through ascetic discipline, spiritual struggle, and spiritual alchemy. So, yeah, this is in chapter on purification in Futuhat. So he explained that it's the rainwater we will be drinking because it has a mix of both Sharia knowledge and Laduni knowledge. So apart from having drunk from the fountain of life itself, being the green one, Khidir, designated by Ibn Arabi, perhaps more significantly as fourth of the supports. So we are actually now going to discuss Khidir and four Awtad. This is the excerpt I have taken from the Stephen Hartstein article. So there, who is Khidir? So Khidir is one of the Awtad, is the support, Awtad. For the earth, mountains are supports, the nails which holding the balance of its weight. So for our soul to work in a Siratul Mustaqim, we need support. We need so that support comes through Khidir. And Ibn Arabi called, of course, he explained Khidir is one of the Awtad, the category of spiritual man whose abodes are according to the four corners of the world, east, west, north, south, and station maqam of each of them is the station of that direction. So in all these four directions, there are four Awtad for even earth. or the whole cosmos. These four supports, Awtad, are thus figures of this world in contrast to the seven substitutes. So I don't know whether you read that book, the Nubuwah and Wilayah. That book has the description of um, the seven Awtad and four, um, um, four supports Awtad. Yeah, the description is there. Let me find where I taken a note in that reading. So there is a seven Abdal, four Awtad, 40 Rajabiyun, 12 Nuqaba, divine, yeah, Naqib, and 8 Nujaba. So those are the some of the Rijalil Deen or Rijalil Rijal of for unseen. So they are the one who has been discussed, but our focus is here to understand Khidir. So according to Ibn Arabi, Khidir is one of the Awtad. These four supports are thus figures of this world in contrast to the seven Abdal. For example, who are related to the seven heavens. So Abdals are related to seven heavens. Seven heavens in Ibn Arabi's terminology. So the heavens start from the moon, and then it goes, and the sun is in the middle. And I showed that diagram, and then Arsh is around it, the whole cosmos. So Ibn Arabi identifies these supports as the prophetic quartet who have not tasted death, who have remained alive in their bodies within the abode of this lower world. So Khidir and Elias or Elijah, these are the two of lower world. Isa and Idris, their correlation to the four direction, Khidir north, Elias west, Jesus south, and Idris east, suggest a certain axial connection. There is a link between Khidir and Jesus, north and south, on the one hand, and between Idris and Elias, east and west on the other. The east-west axis is made explicit by Ibn Arabi in his Fusus, where he describes Elias as the reappearance of Idris. If you read these two chapter on Elias and chapter on Idris, you'll find these details. Elias reaffirms and completes Idris's prophetic and spiritual function, like the setting sun in the west completes the day that began at dawn in the east. So yeah, it has more information if you read those two chapters about Elias and Idris. Likewise, Khidir and Jesus both share the water of eternal life, one by virtue of body and one by spirit. So Jesus is the spirit and Khidir is the, of course, guide us to manage our body. And Khidir is a living symbol of this perpetual newness of spirit. Every night we sleep and our nafs go back to God and then it come back. So just like kulla yawmin huwa fi shan, every day new creation happen, khalqin jadid. So in that process, Khidir is a living symbol and that permeates all levels active in the 4 degrees. So I'm not going to detail 4 degrees, but if you needed to understand those 4 degrees, you need to read the whole article there. So since Khidir demonstrates the inner reality of the individual to whom he appears, he may view these 4 events and degrees under yet another aspect and one which is more personal. So these 4 events is the Ibn Arabi's life. Ibn Arabi has a first meeting, second meeting, third meeting, and fourth meeting with Khidir. So each of those meeting has some degrees associated with it. That's what is discussed in that article. So here, their relationship to the seal of Muhammadan sainthood, which is Ibn Arabi, as claimed by Ibn Arabi himself. Early in his life, Ibn Arabi had a triple vision involving the three great prophets of Western tradition, Jesus, Moses, and Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Later in his career, he would identify them respectively with three divine principles: beauty, Jamal, majesty, Jalal, and the unifying perfection or completion, Kamal. So those three prophets, the order it has been described, these three divine principle, beauty, Jalal, and Kamal. These three represents these three prophet. So the first meeting identified with the outer correlates with mosaic wisdom of majesty. First meeting, just as Moses was rebuked by Khidir for not adhering to conditions of their association, so was Ibn Arabi himself was rebuked for not conforming to his master. I don't know whether you remember Brother Hadi Abdul Hadi's lecture, Faris Abdul Hadi. So he told us about those incidents in Ibn Arabi's life. So he had a bit of contradiction with his Uriani, and he was coming out of his house, and then he met Khidir. And then Khidir said, go back and fix it. He is right. So, and then when he gone back, his master said, oh, you need a Khidir to tell you that I was right. So then Ibn Arabi said, oh, was he Khidir? So that was the first meeting. So he got a rebuke. And the second meeting identified with the inner corresponds to the Christic wisdom of beauty. Just as Jesus was able to walk on water and work miracles, so Khidr is seen in the Bay of Tunis, breaking the normal conventions of liquids and distance and appearing as a loving friend. So that is the incident you might remember, Ibn Arabi's second meeting with Khidir. And the third meeting was the wall, represents Mohammedan wisdom of perfection, the miracle. This time is portrayed within a mosque for the benefit of others, and in the air, the medium Ibn Arabi is specifically associated with the heirs of Muhammad. You remember he saw Khidir was praying in a prayer mat which was floating in that mosque. And he had a philosopher who didn't believe in miracle. So Khidir said that I am here to show your friend that yes, if God wants, I can pray in a floating mat. So that is the third meeting. And fourth meeting was this Mosul. He went there, and then he was given a khirka, a cloak of Khidir. So that was the fourth meeting. And this Khidir for Awtad. So I'll ask you to check this four corners of Kaaba, and then this four meeting, each meeting, what is the meaning of it? This table is that in that article. So first one is outer, second was inner, and then the limiting wall, which is of course that floating carpet, and then rising watchtower, which is that given, he was given the khirka. So of course that means he has been given the power to rise on top of the tower. And as you know, there is a Quranic surah Al-Araf, and that's talk about the wall between heaven and hell. And that is where of course a particular rank will be given that power to um, rise in that tower. So Ibn Arabi's writings that are fourfold principle seems to accompany Khidir wherever he goes. The four supports, the four directions, and four corners of Kaaba, four kinds of spiritual man, 4 degrees of pen, tablet, dust cloud, and nature, 4 stations of sainthood, prophethood, and worship, closeness, those sort of things. And that fourfold structure appears again and again in Ibn Arabi's teaching. Four legs of the throne, four divine names that govern existence: living, knowing, willing, empowering. These four we have. Each of us has this four divine name built into us. And then the four principles of nature: heat, cold, dry, moisture. Four phases of the moon, four kinds of body in the human genus: Adam, Eve, Jesus, and all other humans. And the four greatest trials: women, rank, wealth, and children. So these are the trials every human has been, for men, of course, women, for women, men. That is how the trials will happen. um, that is the trials. And then of course with the rank, wealth, and children, and that the verse I read in our last lecture, in Surah Hadid, اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهب وزينة والتفاخر بينكم والتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. So those are in that verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that اعلموا أنما yeah, حياة الدنيا لعب, the world is a play. So various ways we have been given the test. وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. So that's what we discussed last time. And then four revealed books: Torah, Gospels, Psalms, and Quran. And the four peoples of paradise: believers, saints, prophets, and envoys. And hell will have four kinds of people: polytheists, unbelievers, hypocrites, arrogance. Four kinds of abode or manzil: dalalat, hudud, hawas, and asrar. So it's just from that book. And in conclusion, basically, I just going to, yeah, of course, I've taken more than 1 hour. But as you see here, this is what we have discussed: Futuwwa, spiritual models, and then we four meetings of Ibn Arabi and Khidir. So hopefully you got some understanding of what these models we are looking for and how we use this model in our life. Now, questions. Thanks for listening. It was a bit longer than I expected.
No, thank you, brother. That was really insightful.
Mm. So, any questions? Thank you, Heba. Yes, we have been discussing this. So, if you have any questions, we are going to touch on it. So, what actually we needed to find out is how to recognize when we are in our journey, various attributes we needed to have, and especially if Moses is our model, or Zulkarnain is the next model we will discuss in our next class. But in this one, we needed to watch our animal self so that we understand where we are, and we needed to have the way the sequence has been given, the way the events has taken place. So that sequence is one of the yeah thing we have to remember. Unless we are able to kill our animal self, and unless we did the retracing, meet our the sacred intellect, we won't be able to meet our um, soul at peace. So, no question.
I'm
I
still
don't
digesting everything. So yeah, Aisha, you go ahead.
no, I don't have a question. I was going to say the same thing. It was very deep because I never thought about um the concept of the story of Moses and Khidr in terms of like having a spiritual experience of a human being, like for us to be on a spiritual journey and how we could use like Moses represent the heart and our journey is a spiritual quest, fish is like nourishment. I never thought about this kind of concept like on the journey. So when you were explaining this, it was like for me it was mind blowing. It's like how we could just take a simple story and how we can create um, a whole new world of like a way of understanding and taking the lessons and implementing it in our life with a deeper meaning. So everything that has like a parent story, which is like very simple to follow, but it has such a deep meaning hidden that we like excavate. We just like open up and see. So for me, it was like I need to go through this again many times to unfold it for myself. Um, and I'm not sure. I was just listening to the live of Sidi Ali Hussein, and he was talking about how to take the stories of the Quran and then how to make them part of the culture. And I was just trying to put my head around, like, how do you do this? How do you read the Quran? How you make things like um, make it into incorporate in our lives and make it into stories and I think this lecture actually brought his lecture into like it tries start to make sense, like this example that you did of Khidr and Moses and how we make it into our life. I think it started to make sense. I'm not sure if I'm making sense when I'm saying this because I'm just trying to work my thoughts, but I think it's very, very powerful what you did just today.
Yes, that's what it is, because it's also a discovery for me as well, because not many of us read Kashani's Tafsir in the past. So recently, I bought the book only 6 months ago, the Tafsir itself. So let alone this particular Surah Kahf, why we have been asked to pray, read every Friday, because we are just reading as a text, but we never gone deeper. That's what, and then this book, what Brother Nadir Khan posted. Um, yeah, how did you get across that one, Brother Nadir? That has more elaboration, and it is exactly what I just discussed today, but in a more details. It's a combination of our last 6 lectures almost.
Assalamu alaikum, Sidi.
Yeah.
Jazakumullah khair for another wonderful lecture. Yeah, I was just looking particularly at this story in previous lectures when I was studying at Cambridge Muslim College, and Dr. Abdullah Rothman also wrote a paper on this, but he was applying it to more kind of pop culture in terms of Star Wars and how the hero's journey, and using Musa alayhi salam and Khidr as well. So at that time, I was just looking for books and came across this one. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So by luck.
Oh, many thanks. Many thanks. Okay. So, yeah, you have a question. We'll be able to explore the nature of spiritual hermeneutics, such as deciphering the divine names and how to apply. Yes, we will be going into it, because as per these books, if you had a look at the dictionary part, the Moral Healer's Dictionary, part 6 of this book, it has a name of all these positive and negative traits and how we can apply various divine names on it, and also various spiritual treatment, how you deal with various treatment. As I mentioned, there is a enneagram diagram for various stages, how balances and imbalances happen, and depending on what imbalance you have, it has 4 options depending on the severity or intensity of the situation. So one is called diet, another is called medication, and another is called poison and surgery. So those, depending on what problem we have, depending on the severity, we may have to do diet approach, which is 1 step forward versus backward. And also medication is 2 step, and poison is the reverse. Say, if you have a particular disease, you use another disease to treat it, but very careful under a close supervision. And surgery is a kind of fasting. It's complete stopping food and any other intake. So yeah, we'll go into those when we start practicing it. Attaining moral imbalance, which is part 5, and then the full explaining is there in I think part 3. So we will be discussing those, how to read the sign and how to apply it, and then we'll go into case study. There is a case study from Ibn Arabi's Futuhat, case studies from Masnavi. So yeah, there are some slides I shared in the past. So Masnavi stories are mostly discussed in detail, and I don't know whether you remember. If you go into the slide pack I shared, the one which is from all the videos, that has all those stories. So yeah, I'll go through them, and then we will start practicing our own healing depending on what we are working on. But what I suggest is you can start taking on a particular situation you have at this moment, and you can already adopting it um, based on what problems you are facing in your life. So in case of myself, I'm working on some problem I am facing in my life. So I will be able to share briefly what I am doing. But of course, main thing is this sort of treatment, generally we share only symbolically, and most Sufis, they do not share their personal one, but they discuss these things in a third party context. So that's how Ibn Arabi explained many of his own thing. But he described some of the people he met and what they did to fix what problems they saw. So this particular book, which is this Lale Bakhtiar's book, Sufi Enneagram Spiritual Sign, it has actually the procedures fully. I'll share those with you guys when we are ready.
Sister Heba has a question.
Any other
or a
questions?
comment.
We are almost at the end.
Yes, yeah, I actually have something that I would like to share, and it will end up probably in a mind-picking question.
Okay.
I once came across something. It was perspective of Sayyidina al-Khidr as the destiny, as in qadar. And for me, it can be connected to what the concept that you shared today, in the sense of its being situations in life like fitna, where we have the choice to choose, especially in the things that we do not control, how we can choose. Here comes our choice of which way to take. Is it the Sirat al-Mustaqim, or we'll be going into the victimhood and start to go with the shaitan and the other path. So what do you think of this concept? Is this connection that I did makes sense, that Sayyidina al-Khidr is the qadar, it could be the destiny, with what similar as in the journey within ourselves?
Yeah, to some extent, but of course the qadar and qada, the way it described is, we have this discussion in the past. Basically, ikhtiyar,
Mhm.
we have as a human being, we have the free will. If it is a predestined thing, if everything is supposed to happen, it's already recorded, we are playing the record, then what is the value? This is what Muhasibi and Hassan al-Basri and a lot of other Sufis, they said that then what is the need for this prophet to come, and what is the need for Rasul to come? Why they are sent to guide humanity? If everything's predestined, it will play out. What is the purpose of free will? So those discussions we will touch on, but
Mhm.
main thing is, yeah, yes,
Maybe I
our
wasn't clear in my
physical part,
question,
our
actually.
physical body, what color my body will be, what symptom I will have, that is fixed, that is predestined. But moral part, whether I will be a thief or I will be an awliya, that's not predestined.
Actually, but
Yes,
this is not what I mean in my question. I know maybe I wasn't clear.
okay.
The thing that I read is people sometimes interpret Sayyidina al-Khidr as destiny. It's like seeing it in a different way, as in it's the situations that come in within our lives, like suddenly somebody dies. Some people take them, they forget that it's just a situation in life that could be like a fitna, it's here comes my choice to not to go into the victimhood and why this is happening to me, while it can be taking the learnings and come closer to God and to the straightened path. So with this explanation of today's how the story of the journey with Sayyidina al-Khidr and Moses, it's similar to this description. It can be like the destiny during his life, and how the choices, it's for us to make better choices, to know what to do you know what I mean? Maybe I'm not being able to clarify it more.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
just explain. This particular, what you are talking about is shown in this particular PhD thesis on Khidir. He
Okay.
captured on this thesis. This is the Birmingham. This is it's a PhD thesis in Birmingham University.
Mm-hmm.
So it has those description you just mentioned.
Oh, okay.
So I'll share this with you. It actually talks about various And also I'll give you historical perspective as well. This Mushkil Gusha and various stories about Khidir, where various culture see Khidir in a different character. So yeah, sometimes people think various things as a part of Khidir persona. So so you are saying that a particular event happened in somebody's life, whether Khidir has a role in it, or is it part of, or other Khidir can come and give him a guidance, right?
Yeah, it's like a metaphor. Yeah, like it's a metaphor. The for Sayyidina al-Khidr is like a metaphor in our life journey for, yeah,
Yes,
destined
yes,
situations. Yeah.
yeah. So you know the story of uh, Hakim al-Tirmizi. Do you know about how his story?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Hakim al-Tirmizi is one of the awliya, one of the insan kamil in 3rd century. The Hijri 240, he he was maybe 20-year-old, and he and 3 of his friends um, in you know in bulk in those days in first you know Paris, no for this the the Iran in those days.
Okay.
So the 3 of them are planning to go for knowledge searching. In those days they have to travel to
Yes.
various sheikhs in various regions to learn knowledge. And he decided to go, but he couldn't because his mom was sick, and his mom said, if you go, who will look after me? And then the 2 friends gone, but he stayed and look after his mother. And then his mother died in 6 months. And then he keep on crying on his mother's grave every day. He goes there and cries. After 1 week or 2 weeks, he was crying, and then someone just came to him. So then, hey, who are you crying? Why you are crying? He said, I'm crying because I missed out on this knowledge. I thought I will be, because my mother said Allah will help me to get the knowledge, but I am not getting anything. Then Khidr said, yeah, I'll teach you. I'll come to you every Sunday. And then he started teaching him. For 3 years he taught him. And he even took one of his friends to show that he submitted all these notes he wrote to Khidir, and he take it to a river, and there is a chair comes to take this note as a sunduk, and in that sunduk box he put the note, and then a fish take it and bring that note back. And then one of his friend recorded it, and it's captured in Tashkiratul Awliya, written by Fariduddin Attar. If you read it, you will find
Really?
everything there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll show you. I'll send you the link.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank
this
you.
book and that book you will be, and then Khidir was his teacher, and
Yeah.
this Khatam al Awliya, that book he wrote, and the 157 question: who will be Khatam al Awliya, and what will be the qualification required to become a Khatam al Awliya? And he is the one who said there is a Khatam al Nubuwah, same way there will be a Khatam al Awliya. And these are the, whoever can answer Khatam al Awliya, he will be the Khatam al Awliya. And after 300 years, Ibn Arabi responded all those 157 questions. So that book is called Mustaqim Jawab, Khatam al Awliya, whereas the book written by Hakim Tirmizi is called Khatam al Awliya. And
Wow.
here did a critical edition for it. And that book, if you want, I can post it to you, the PDF.
Yes,
Arabic.
please.
Yeah.
Would love that. Thank you very much for your reply. Thank you. Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, but Khidir came to various people's life, not only Hakim Tirmizi or Ibn Arabi, many. There are many stories. And that's what this thesis, Birmingham University thesis, they captured some of it. Yeah, in various regions. So anyway, many thanks everyone for joining the call. And hopefully we will be able to learn and apply whatever we are learning through these sessions. So please do come and join live so that I feel at least encouraged to continue my study and work with you, because I am keen to do the work in this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.